All right, we're on. And all right, welcome to another type interaction video, ISTP, and I believe this is actually the first ever ISTP-ISTP one-on-one interaction, or at least in this type interaction series. I'm talking with was it Sage 90 from Personality Cafe?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So me being a perceiver, I don't really have anything planned for this hangout, which is kind of typical. But since let's see, I know you've done you said you've done one other type interaction video.
Yeah, I did a type interaction video with, I believe it was an ESTJ, an ESFP, and ENTP.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I remember seeing. I remember seeing parts of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I assume the ESFP was or Jeff. Did he come in like kind of late into the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Okay, so I guess well, the first question I usually like to ask people on these things is like how did you first get into MBTI and find out you're an ISTP?
I think back when I was in community college, I was taking a abnormal psychology class, and the teacher wanted us all to go on and like see what the MBTI test was like, and so she had us take one, and then I actually never tested as ISTP. To start out with, I tested as INTP and INTJ a few times.
Interesting.
And I was going with INTP for so long, and then after I actually got into the visual typing videos where type people according to their body language, and which I kind of don't buy into fully, but I don't know, just it was a different perspective on it, and they had a different way that they analyzed the functions, and I figured out that ISTP is probably more accurate than INTP, especially the extroverted sensing over extroverted intuition is the second function. It just became really obvious to me that that was what it was. That was what I was actually doing.
Okay.
So, yeah. And what about you?
Yeah, it was pretty similar to me. Like I was mistyping as the first thing I ever got was ISTJ, and I got INTJ a couple of times. And I remember I was like right on the border between S and N for the longest time. And like every time I would take one of those tests, like most of the flat just kind of randomly pick answer for that. So I just came out like 50-50 for S and N, and just I think it went with ISTJ more than INTJ. And I later figured out that the current behavior, which was like really heavily influenced by my background and upbringing and just just other outside influences. And at the time I didn't know that that MBTI was about natural preferences. So I was just kind of picking like, oh, okay, what do you do in these situations? Well, okay, well, I just, I would just kind of like answer the questions literally, and it would just it
Mm-hmm.
came out J. Um, and I didn't actually confirm that I was an ISTP until like maybe a year and a half ago. After I joined Personality Cafe, and I joined, I started one of those Type Me threads, and people were just going all over the place with that, and and then I didn't know anything about the functions at the time, and I wasn't really planning to, but then I started looking into them, and um, even then, it kind of took me a while to figure out, like, do I use NE or SE? Was when somebody finally kind of directed me away from like stuff that, from like the behaviors I'd been taught, especially like taught by my parents. Like my mom's an SJ, ESFJ, so like I learned a lot of values from it, my parents. And once I figured out that, my natural preference is basically perceiving, specifically SE. Um, then it just made sense, and that, if I just take away like any outside influences, then yeah, ISTP just like fits perfectly. Um, you know, uh, and the only things, I guess the reasons I kind of avoided ISTP for a while is because like the descriptions contain like all these stereotypes, like being into motorcycles and extreme sports, and you know like fixing cars, and like mechanical things. Like, well, that's not me at all.
Yeah.
um, and and then once people started to clear up that those are just stereotypes, it doesn't define what an ISTP is, then I was like, okay, then everything else makes sense. And I knew, I figured out early on that I was a TI Dom. I don't really relate to those at all. And so I looked at SC and NI. It's like, oh yeah, that totally fits.
Can you repeat what you said about being TI Dom? It sort of cut out for a second.
Okay, yeah. So I did, yeah, I figured out early.
It cut out again. I can't hear you.
TI always came out on, and I related to TI a lot, and and then so then the only question was like, do I relate to SENI or NESI? And I didn't relate to NE at all. And so I looked at SE and NI. I was like, okay, that sounds a lot more like what I do. I was using those two functions uh,
Mm-hmm.
in conjunction with each other, like like looking at details and then forming a big picture conclusion out of that. Like, okay, that's SE, and then NI kind of supporting that. It's like, yeah, that sounds more a lot like what I do. So yeah, so I just went with ISTP, and other people confirmed it. And, they said I seem more like ISTP than anything else. So
Okay. Well, yeah, I think getting away from the stereotypes was what was um, able to make me actually decide on being ISTP.
mhm.
Um, because if you literally went by the stereotypes of each type, I'd probably come out as an INFP or something. Um, because I don't know, I'm not. I did like as far as the ones that actually do fit. Very. I'm sort of a loner and kind of um, very into the aesthetics of everything.
Mhm.
Um, which isn't so strong for ISTPs, but makes sense for being SE, like secondary to me. Um,
Yeah,
I think it can be utilized in different ways that aren't necessarily like doing something mechanical or um, building something. I don't know.
yeah, being into aesthetics. Like a lot of people associate that with like ISFP. Um, but yeah, I mean, I could see, yeah. the thing is, SE can be used in different ways for different reasons, and you know, depending on
Yeah.
your interests. Um, I mean, do you have you seen like videos of other ISTPs on YouTube?
I yeah, I have. Um, I try to find ISTP females, and I just can't. It seems so rare,
Yeah.
but I suspect they're often mistyped as something else
Mm.
because of their gender. But um, yeah, I've tried. I try to watch all the ISTPs that are
Mm.
there on YouTube,
Yeah.
and um, as far like for the visual reading
To them or
website,
not?
what?
Oh, did it cut out again? Yeah.
Um, for the visual reading website, they have some examples of people they've actually typed as ISTP. You wouldn't think there's like, well, there's like Tony Hawk. Then there's like Taylor Swift and Kristen Stewart, and
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know if I act like them, but I haven't watched Taylor Swift talking too much.
Mm. It's
Um,
kind of funny that I think I did catch an interview of Kristen Stewart on one of those late night talk shows. I think I was just
yeah.
flipping channels or something like. I wouldn't ordinarily have any other reason to watch Kristen Stewart. um, but yeah, I just remember just kind of like listening to her talk, and I was like, I wonder if she's an ISTP. And I hadn't even seen any of those websites, the celebrity typing websites. So I just out of curiosity, I googled Kristen Stewart ISTP, and I see all these links come up. Like, oh wow, a lot of people.
You just cut out again for about 20 seconds.
Oh, dang it. Fix this. Hmm. I think you were cut out for a while there.
Okay. Is it working now?
Yeah. Okay. Um, let's see what we're talking about.
Kristen Stewart.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I remember just kind of like just out of curiosity, I just Googled Kristen Stewart ISTP, and I found all these links, and like apparently a lot of other people saw the same thing that I did. It's like, oh
Mhm.
wow, just but
Yeah, like I think when you the whole visual typing thing is kind of weird when you get into like the nitpicky details of like, oh, this person, their eyebrow moved this way, so they're this type.
uh,
I think that's sort of ridiculous. Um, but I think there is something to be said for getting like a sort of a general uh, just impression of someone's type from their overall body language. Um, and I would be
yeah,
more likely to buy into that.
yeah. I mean, you can guess, but it's like I mean, there's no way you can like really say that doesn't that's an accurate typing method. You know, it's just
Yeah, it's been weird though because I've like I've been able to type people like that. Um, Another weird example is I was looking at some artwork my sister drew of some cartoon characters that she made up in her head, and she asked me to like get an impression of what type they were, and it turned out all the types that I said they were just by looking at their appearance were types that she had thought her characters were.
Oh,
Or
really?
decided for her characters. Most of them. I'm not saying all of them are right, but it was just interesting. Like, so I think there's something about like either how they look or when she was creating the character, she had like stereotypes in mind for what types should look like, and that sort of influenced her character. I'm not sure.
Yeah. What about like other people that you know in real life? And do you like just do you try to type other people or did yeah.
Yeah. Uh, it's hard for me to type real people for some reason. Like people I know really well, because I don't think nobody matches their type 100%. So you have all these, when you like see somebody every day, it's like you have all these things that are going against each other in your head about the person. Like they could be this, but then they also act like this sometimes, and it's harder to type people you know well, I think. But yeah,
That's interesting because I think I usually have more confidence the better I know them because then I can filter out like behaviors that I think are just based more on their background than on their natural preferences.
Yeah, that is true.
Because I just look for like just basic, just try to narrow down to like just the basic like cognitive processes that they seem to use. Like somehow ESFJs are really are easy for me to spot because like their FE just comes out like it's like really obvious because they're just like really like they want to engage in people and then to try to figure out if they're S or N, I just listen to like the things they like to talk about and how they talk about them. Because like a censor, especially an SJ, will just talk about just details. They'll just kind of go through like and list about like, oh, we did this, this, and this, and this, and this, and they won't really like form any like big picture conclusions out of that. They just like kind of like to list like really specific details. And then the ends are more, they like to delve deep into like what is the meaning of what we're talking about, and they'll like they'll ask me things like so what kinds of things have you been learning lately, and then that kind of catches me off guard, and then like I have to think about it for a second, and then I just kind of like go back to like the last really insignificant surface thing that I learned, and it's probably not the thing that I would. Not the thing I would normally talk about, but yeah.
That's interesting. I've never asked anybody what they've learned recently. I never would even feel that was an important question.
Yeah.
Like, I think learning is good, but for me it's more like I'll ask them what they've done and then get and I sort of make inferences about why they've done that or what their experience doing that would be based on like my knowledge of them or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of. I mean, it's not something that people would ask me if they just barely know me.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of like a few minutes into the conversation. But yeah, when I'm talking with an ESFJ or an ESTJ, they just like to just talk just for the sake of talking, and so they change subjects a lot, and it kind of feels like there's really no purpose to it other than just to have conversation.
Uh, yeah, I'm trying to. That's interesting because I'm trying to decide whether my mom is ESFJ or it sounds weird, but the other option is ENFP. Um, I guess that just comes down to I'm sure of her perceiving functions, but I'm not sure what order they're in. And I'm not sure of her judging functions. So it's like, I don't know.
It's interesting though that the toss-up is between ESFJ and ENFP, because I saw this theory posted. I think it was on the NF Geeks Facebook forum,
Uh-huh.
that they were saying that somebody noticed that two types can appear similar on the surface if their first and third letters are the same, and the second and fourth letters are different. So it'd be like ESFJ
Well,
and ENFP, and ISTP can kind of look like INTJ.
yeah, for sure. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I think
Um,
it has more to do with sharing similar actual functions, though,
hmm.
because the INTJ, I mean, they both have NI and they both have SE, but it's just that they're in a different order. Um, and I think that based on your biases towards certain types, um, you might show more. You could develop certain functions to be higher and look more like another type. Um,
Yeah.
because I've been told through the visual typing that I have ENTJ or INTJ characteristics
Hmm.
in my way of speaking. Um, I'm trying to think. Like with ESFJs and ENFPs, they would both have SI and NE.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to that. I don't really look at it in terms of like the actual letters anymore because two types can have like three of the same letters and be totally different.
That's true. If you change the J to a P, then you have totally different functions.
Yeah.
Yeah. But